Welcome to the Intimacy Unlocked podcast. I'm Serena Haynes, your everything to do with sex coach, and I'm here to answer all of your juiciest sex questions. Hello, lovers, and welcome back to the Intimacy Unlocked podcast. I'm Serena Haynes, your everything to do with sex coach, and we are here to unlock your burning questions. Did you guys watch Dying for Sex? We're going to get right into that immediately. It destroyed me. I haven't warned Sarah that I was going to ask her about it too, but it absolutely destroyed me. I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram, but I was blubbering and crying. Did you cry?
Oh yeah, I cried.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was it brought me, in the first couple of scenes, the first episode, I was like, woohoo, all these women, we need to watch this. This is so good. She's talking about sex. It's like sex, right? And then she's like, I'm dying. And I cried. And then her best friend had a meltdown and I cried. And then the themes of female friendship came up and I lost my mind because I don't know about you guys, but listen, making friendships and holding on to friendships as an adult is so hard. Nobody wants to talk about it unless you've had these friends since even high school. And even then it's really tough to rework your whole life to show up for people. I'm one of the worst. But I mean, my whole friend group is the worst, quote, the worst. So we all get each other, which is good. But my God, the way that she just dropped her life to take care of her and then fucked it up so bad and then had to come back and fix it all again. Anyway, it just destroyed me. And then my grandmother passed away a couple of months ago. So then the whole watching her pass away and watching her die and go through the things. Anyways,
Super powerful.
it was so powerful. The themes in that, I have to watch it I will watch it 4 or 5 times. I know I will. But this is going to be coming out just in time because I am going to create a group. I'm going to create a Zoom link, just a free, everybody come on in. I'm not going to teach anything. I might just sit there and cry. I just want a whole group of people in a community to come together and let's debrief because I think that this should have had a warning on it. You need a debrief after this, right?
The way it's marketed, it is marketed like a fun, rom-com almost.
Yeah.
And it is fun and it is hysterical and very, you laugh in every single episode.
Every single episode. But I was screeching and also cackling at the exact same time.
Yeah.
It was beautifully made. I can't get over it.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. And just what her tapping in to her sexuality allowed her to discover about herself and her past. Mm-hmm. Whew. At the end of life, no less. It's just so much going on.
Well, and this is it. And are we all going to wait until the end of life? Do we all have to wait for such a catastrophic event in order to put ourselves first, in order to put some pleasures first, in order to make really hard decisions? Because we all have really hard decisions to make every day. And, I'm not saying go out and, leave your family and go on a big sexcapade. But if you do, just text me and let me know.
Tell us about it.
Tell us all about it.
Put it in the confessions.
Yeah. Head to the show notes, anonymous link. I want to hear all about it. But at the same time, why are we waiting? I had a quote today and I shared it on my Instagram or something. And it said, why are you waiting for somebody to give you permission to be as big as you possibly can? You're just going to die, And it sounds morbid, but the idea is, the reason I even do this podcast and the reason we talk about sex all the time is, it's not always just about sex. It's really just about the way you live and the permission you give yourself to be your most authentic self. So my most authentic self loves talking about this stuff. And my most authentic self likes to kind of be a disruptor. I like to be that disruptor in a room to say to people, but you can, if somebody says, well, I can't charge that much for this. I go, well, actually you can do whatever you like. And funny enough, when I give the advice, sometimes I go, oh shit, I am talking to myself because there are days where I'm like, why did I just take that job for not $10,000? You know what I mean? Anyways, I'm going to create a link and I'm going to have it on my Instagram and we'll put it in the show notes as well. And I want you guys to click on that and I want you to join. It's just going to be free. Just register. Come on in, head to my Instagram, Serena_Haynes, or my website, serenahaynes.com, or these show notes. And we're going to get as many people as we can registered all over the world. And we're just going to come in and have a chat. I want to know, what does it mean? What did that movie or what did that show mean to you? What were the themes that mattered the most to you? Let's get together and like start a movement, if you will.
I love it. Because it brings up so much.
So much. And everybody, I think that everybody who watched it, even though we all watch the same thing with our different pasts, the different ways, the different cultures, different everything, we're going to have such different perspective on it. You know, I found that there were so many overlapping themes that I thought, my God, I need to go see my therapist more often because everything is touching on something in my life. Like, this is crazy. Where some people I talk to, they're like really focused on the sexual part or really focused on the friendship part or really focused on the relationship she had with her husband and the ex-husband part. And, you know, and on the permission she gave her. So everybody had their own way of looking at things. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest theme for you?
Oh, geez. I mean, I think the initial choice to explore sex at the age she was was huge for me as a 38-year-old woman. Like, because I've been fairly inactive for a while, and that was inspiring. But also, I gotta say, like the childhood trauma stuff was a big one for me. Yeah. And again, just the fact that because she was experimenting with sex and getting to know herself, it unlocked this like a floodgate for her.
Yeah.
All of this stuff about her past, but it all, no spoilers, but
no spoilers.
It ends beautifully.
Yeah.
But it is heavy.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think what you're doing with this group is amazing.
Thank you. And I mean, that's a true story, you guys. I mean,
it's based on a podcast.
Yeah, based on the podcast. So, you know, I think that's just such a cool thing. I kind of forgot about the childhood trauma part. Isn't that funny, right? Because that just wasn't a theme that clicked with me. But thinking back, it was so powerful to watch it because we don't always look at that little person inside of us and say, what do you need? You know,
right.
But that is the biggest question that we need to ask ourselves. And I talk about that in different ways with clients, but it's never deep trauma that we kind of dive into. Again, like as I've said several times before, you'd get resourced out for something that I think that you'd need a different professional for. But having those conversations with your little person and saying like, what does little Sarah need? And what does little Serena need in these moments of questioning? You know, what would make you proud?
And her relationship with her mom and her parent. That
so
whole,
complicated.
oh my gosh, the themes in this show is just...
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth joining. So register. The link will be in the show notes and it'll be on my Instagram, and we're going to talk about that quite a bit. So, dying for sex. Michelle Williams oh my gosh, what was her name?
Jenny Slate.
Yes, and Jenny. Oh my God,
they deserve
so good.
All
of the everythings. I never
give
really
them all the awards.
I was gonna say I never really give props to any of these like Hollywood awards because I'm like, it's all bullshit. But like this production from start to finish, everybody involved in it, I mean, like it was just so beautifully done. Anyways,
we could talk forever.
I know we could go on and on about it, but join the group. It'll be super fun. So we get a couple of questions come in, and these are a little different. So, you know, we might not get a little down and dirty today, but who knows? Maybe we will, because this is my podcast after all. So I'm going to just dive right in and start with these questions. This one says, "Hi, Serena, loving the podcast. In a few months, my spouse will be leaving to live elsewhere for work for a year. We'll maybe see each other a night or two each month, maybe if we're lucky. So twice a month. How can we keep our sex life alive? We've been together for 13 years and have yet never been much of the sexting or phone sex kind of couple. But I guess we'll have no choice but give it a try. Give us all the tips." Yeah, so 13 years together. First of all, congratulations. That's amazing for you guys to be together that long. Secondly, this sounds like a pretty big transition in your life. So, you know, I just want you to give yourselves grace, both of you, before we start getting into the sexting and the toys and all of the things, think to yourself, you know what, this is going to be a huge transition. And if we're not super good at it right away, that's okay, right? I don't want you to think, oh, he's away for the first weekend and we didn't have phone sex or sex and now, oh my God, that's terrible. Secondly, we're going to see each other for a night or two each month. That's a lot. That's great if you had sex twice a month. But there are some people who can have sex once a month, once every 2 months, and they're completely satisfied as well. So I just want you to hear me when I say, don't get focused or caught up so much in that number of days that you're going to see each other, because the quality of sexual encounter, the quality of your intimacy that you can have in those 1 or 2 days can be really, really beautiful, to the point where you may feel quite satisfied and not need too much. You wouldn't have to worry too much about those interim times. Now, if you are a couple who regularly do have sex, multiple times a week, and this is going to be difficult for you, and it's going to be difficult for you, that's okay too. So give us all the tips. So the sexting and the phone sex. Everybody goes straight for, sending nudes and doing phone sex on the video and, sexting all the time and all of those kind of things. The biggest tip that I'm going to give you is not even a sexual tip, and I know what you want that, and I'll get there. But the biggest tip I'm going to give you is to connect every day on something. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that all on your own. You can, every day you can have, I used to do this with my kids, but every day you can have like what was the highlight of your day and what was the shitty part of your day, right? We used to call them the hits and the pits of your day. And then you just sit there and it gives you something to talk about, and it gives you a reason to kind of text one another. Stay in touch with the things that you normally would stay in touch with over, if you were living together. Now, I should have prefaced this by saying, I live this. I actually live this. My husband travels 2 weeks at a time. So he travels away across the country for 2 whole weeks, and then he comes home for 2 weeks. And we've been doing that for 15 years. So that's a really long time. We've been together 20 years. That's pretty much our entire relationship. So that's all we know. And I may or may not have walked in here tonight kind of being like, Sarah, why is there a man in my house so much? The transition sometimes when he comes home can be a little different, and it's different for him too. So I also want you to remember that when you do see each other, now it's only going to be 1 or 2 days a week. So, you guys hopefully will be really excited to see one another. But that transition time is going to be a little bit different too. So give yourself grace. Understand that sex once or twice a month can be really, really, really beautiful and powerful and satisfying. Now, let's talk about toys for a second. Toys are really fun for long distance couples. And when I say that, people are like, well, what do you mean? I don't want to use a toy by myself. I just do it by myself all the time. Yeah, but there are Bluetooth toys now. So I have a toy, and my husband, we don't use it anymore. I will be completely transparent on this. But when we got it, it was super fun. And he could work it from across the country, like not just down the hall. Like this was crazy that he would be at work working my toy, and I sometimes wouldn't know when it was going to come on, and sometimes I would know, and sometimes it was on purpose. And, did I ever actually have an orgasm? I'm not going to lie. No, I didn't. It wasn't like that, but it was hilarious. It was fun. So I want you to also think about that. A lot of the time when we think about the sexting and the texting and the toys and the phone sex and all that, we think to ourselves it's going to be like the movies, like we're going to get on there and we're both going to come and it's going to be amazing. But also it could just be really funny. It could be this moment where maybe you're feeling into yourself and you're doing some stuff, and you maybe snap a few pictures, or maybe you send a couple of little stories about what you're doing to yourself. And maybe your partner is not even in the mood or participating at all, and they're at work or they're out doing something else, but they're going to get these updates from you all the time. So it really is just this fun way. And then they'll be like, oh my God, don't send me that. I'm here. Now make sure you have consent to send photos at different times of the day, because some people might not want to open those, not safe for work. So you want to be really careful what you're sending. But at the same time, it should be really fun and funny. And if you put too much pressure on it, feeling and being as satisfying as your face-to-face contact, you may be setting yourself up for something, okay? So just know that the sexting and the sex that you're going to have while you're distant can be really satisfying, but it could also just be for fun, which is great. Now, mutually masturbating while you're separated is a really fun thing to do. You can either do it on the phone and you don't have to say anything. A really easy way to start is just be like, hey, so I think we're going to do the phone sex tonight. And your partner goes, oh my God, okay, well, I don't know how to do this. And you go, well, I don't know how to do this either. But then you just kind of put the phone on speaker and you lay it next to you. And then maybe your partner watches some porn, or maybe you're watching porn, or maybe you tell each other stories, or maybe you share some autoerotica that day that you're going to kind of lead up to and you're going to talk about. Maybe you tell each other a story about like how you want to touch each other. And then you start just masturbating yourself. And without seeing or really walking through what you're doing, you're just on the phone with each other while you're doing that together. So you hear the breathing and you hear the moaning, and, you know, then there could be a little point of like, oh my God, baby, like I'm just thinking about you so much. And you can do it that way. Then the second kind of step to that is while you're doing it, you could snap a little picture of yourself. Or while you're doing it, you could set up a camera. Now, people laugh at me all the time and they're like, well, how am I supposed to like do a video and then masturbate? And what if I need to use both of my hands? And I always say it's really fun. It's easy. It's funny because I feel like, I could be wrong because I don't have a penis, but I always feel like it's so much easier for people with penises because they've got like the phone in one hand and the dick in the other. That just seems relatively simple to me. But like if you were to see me masturbating, like I need a third arm sometimes. How the hell am I supposed to be holding a phone? Don't understand. I'm like, wait, but my dildo has a suction and then my other toys strap on and then my other one is here. My hands are doing stuff too. Where's the phone? On the tripod, right? Okay, I kid. It's not that crazy. Sometimes, not really. But you could get a little tripod or set it up at the end of the bed. There's something called like the money shot, okay? And a lot of us gals, really, if we're not watching erotica and we're not watching the things, we don't really understand the draw sometimes of, you know, just that up close push shot of you doing the thing that you're doing. But you're most of the time, you guys, I'm just going to call a spade, your partner really doesn't always need to see your face when it's happening. You know, I'm not going to lie. I don't necessarily want to see my partner's face when that's happening either. You're focused on what's kind of like going on. So you could send some videos or photos. Now, the toys are really fun, right? You could have that toy on during the day and your partner is using it. You could, you know, have a time together where you say, you know what, every Tuesday night or Tuesdays and Thursdays at X, you know, we make a date night, right? You make a date night, you set it up. Maybe you get your favorite takeout. Maybe your partner has their favorite meal that they've made and you sit down on a FaceTime together or a video call and you have your little date night and you enjoy your time together and you talk and you laugh and then you kind of like get a little frisky, maybe you show a little shoulder, maybe you do the thing and you actually kind of flirt and let that happen as well. So those are a couple of different tips. The toys that I would recommend most for distance play when it comes to like Bluetooth and stuff are the ones that are like you can put them in your panties. You don't have to hold on to them. There are some that you kind of like have to hold and then they can be used. But if you can kind of put one in your body and then just keep that fun alive during the day and during these things, that's a lot of fun. Sharing autoerotica, porn, different videos that you like. Maybe you take a video of yourself rather than it being live, right? Maybe you take a video of yourself or some pictures of yourself or even some audio of yourself orgasming, and you send that to kind of begin with. Right? But there's so many ways that you guys can jump into this. And some people are going to be like, no, I need something more hardcore right away. And then other people are going to be like, oh my God, I can't even imagine bringing this conversation up with my partner. So I say, give yourself grace. It doesn't have to be every day. Flirt while you're away. Share really special things the same way that you would have shared them while you were here. Have a date night. Now, there are little apps that you can use. None of this is sponsored, but it could be. The Paired app is a really fun little app. It's not super sexy, but it's just something to kind of keep you connected. My husband and I will use that sometimes where it just asks, you know, like, what's your favorite memory of your partner when you first started dating and things like that. And it kind of spurs conversation of like, what can we talk about right now to start remembering who we were and how our relationship was. So hopefully that helps. Good luck and reach out if you need any more advice, because it's not an easy transition to go from full-time to part-time partnership when you're in there together. All right, so on to the next question. I'm stuck. Oh, girl, I don't even know who this is from yet. Anyway, I'm stuck. I've been stuck for 16 years. 16 years on and off with my ex. Here we go. See, sometimes, guys, I don't read these questions until I actually sit down or I've just skimmed them. So, like, you're getting it the same time I'm getting it. We're in this together. I've been stuck for 16 years on and off with my ex. The sex connection is unreal. We get each other's bodies and needs and wants like I've never experienced before. I met him when I was 16. He cheated, he lied, he's done everything to hurt me, but always seems to weasel his way back into my life. I'm 30 now and it's still happening. Why? Why do I crave and desire him? Although I know it always hurts me in the end. I want to stop. I want to move on. I'm begging, please help my heart. Oh, and my head. I can't, and head can't do it anymore. He's honestly an asshole and a narcissist. I deserve better. Oh, my darling. I can hear the pain. And I'd like to say this is going to be an easy thing for you to move on from. But unfortunately, this is a really, really long, deep bond that you guys have. I'm not going to use any terms to categorize maybe what's going on here. However, the fact that you've been with him for, well, pretty much your whole life, at 16, prior to 16, whether we've had, any erotic encounters prior to, 15, 16, 17 or not, 15, 16, 17 is kind of when we start to develop the bonds that we're going to have with people. It's the times that we really, whatever happens in those moments, they're core memories, right? They're like pivotal moments that happen for us. And whatever happened in that moment is something that we're going to bring forward until we stop a pattern. So, to be just really simple, we'll get into it a little bit, but to be really simple, there's a pattern happening. There's a bad habit happening. And habits are created different ways, right? And this one is definitely not just a choice of a habit, like it's not just a simple one. Your chemical makeup, the trauma that you've experienced with him, the highs, the lows, all of those things are kind of coming together in this chaotic environment that feels really safe to you because it feels really natural to you because it feels like that's all you know, which it is by the sounds of it. That's really all you know is this up and down, up and down. And I don't know if you've ever tried to have another relationship with somebody and whether that, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you have had another relationship with somebody, you may or may not have found that relationship, quote, boring if there wasn't any ups and downs and chaos happening the way that it's happening with your ex. So the push and the pull is really what's stemming, this connection, right? Or keeping this connection going. In order to break a habit, we need to do two things. We need to interrupt a pattern and we need to replace it with something. And I don't mean, it's funny because when I say that, I always think, that old adage that goes, to get over someone, you need to get under them. And I hate that because things like that get watered down, but the deeper meaning of it is really important to hear. And it's not the sex. Trust me, that's not what I'm getting at. But the idea is to interrupt the pattern. You see the pattern. Right? Like you say it. Why do I crave and desire him, although I know it always hurts me in the end? Well, you crave and desire him because you know it's going to hurt in the end, but then he's going to be the one to patch it up. He's going to be the one to fix the hurt again, because you've never given anybody else a chance to fix that hurt, nor have you, by the sounds of it, maybe learned how to self-soothe that hurt, right? You're looking for somebody else to soothe that for you, and he's the one who does it. So he's the hurt. He hurts you, but he also heals you. So every time he hurts you, you're going to go back to that moment of healing and think to yourself, well, that's going to feel really good. So the what feels really good is taking precedent over the pain that you feel because that pattern is so normal, quote, normal for you, right? It's a very familiar place for your nervous system to live. So I would also have you ask yourself a question like, what do other areas of your life look like? Where do you find your nervous system living quite happily, calm and peaceful? Do you like being alone? Do you like being in silence? Do you like, anything that kind of calms and relaxes your nervous system? Or do you find yourself really enjoying these moments of tension or chaos or confusion or excitement, right? Sometimes we use the word excitement. Like, I really need something to happen right now in order for us to feel comfortable in our nervous system. So there's going to be a little bit of work that you may need to do on yourself to kind of ask those questions. What is it about this pattern that makes me want to come back? What is it about myself that I have not learned yet that makes me think that this is the only person that can fill that void for me, right? And that's a little bit of a deeper question than we can kind of answer on a podcast. There's a lot of, details that I would probably need in order to help you out with that. But if I can say my heart really is breaking for you. He cheated, he lied, he's done everything to hurt me, but always seems to weasel his way back into my life. At the risk of calling you out or calling you in, I would like to say that he does not weasel his way back into your life. You open the door and you let him in. Okay? You only do that because you want to feel healed again, right? That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, but we can't keep outsourcing things to other people, right? So I always say we can't outsource our pleasure to other people, but we can't outsource our accountability to other people either. So I want you to think to yourself, why am I letting him back in? He's not weaseling his way back in. You're allowing it to happen. And if you are allowing it to happen, why are you allowing it to happen? And if you don't see that as you allowing it to happen, where is it that you feel like maybe you have a little bit of a void and he's the only person who can fill it, right? Because there are so many other ways to fill that. And I guarantee you, I don't even know you, but I guarantee you that you are worth more than letting somebody into your life to cause chaos in order for you to feel that peace. So if you would like to talk about this a little bit more, I would be more than happy to have a one-on-one with you to have a little bit more of a conversation about that. There's a lot more details involved there, but you can get me at serenahaynes.com if you wanted to reach out and have that conversation. In the meantime, if it's not me, it probably should be somebody else. The connection that we have with somebody, if that sex is unreal, that's just a chaotic nervous system environment for us. It really doesn't boil down to anything safe. That actually is the most unsafe place that we can be in a relationship, if that's the biggest connection. Thank you for being really transparent and really honest. And I hope that me calling you in feels good and it doesn't feel like an attack, because that's not what it's supposed to be. It really is just a space of, I can't say I've never been here. Right? Sometimes we pull things from science and sometimes we pull things from personal and sometimes we smash them together. So there's a lot of people in my life who have felt this as well. And so you're not alone. Thank you for that question. Hey lovers, I also wanted to let you know about this amazing event that I'm having at North Brewing on April 27th at 7 p.m. It's the Sunday Night Sex Show 2.0 with me, Serena Haynes. We're bringing back the spirit of the legendary Sue Johansson, but with a fresh and modern twist. Expect an uncensored, interactive, and playful evening where no question is too wild, no topic is off limits, and pleasure is always the main event. We're going to have juicy Q&A sessions, hilarious and educational games, toy demos, sexy prizes. This is your chance to explore intimacy, pleasure, and connection in a fun and comfortable setting. Join us on April 27th, 7 p.m. at North Brewing on Portland Street. So grab your tickets. Head on over to my Instagram, Serena_Haynes, and get those tickets now, or head to the show notes of this episode and get the squad. So we'll see you there on April 27th. on to something a little bit different. But there's a big theme going on here today when it comes to these relationships. Okay, I want to have a threesome with another woman. I have been bi my whole life, but just admitted, to my husband recently. He said he's not interested in being with another woman, but would consider this to help me have my fantasy. I actually believe him when he says this. My girlfriends think he's lying. I can handle seeing him next to another woman as they both focus on me. But if he kissed or touched her, I don't think I could handle that. I feel kind of hypocritical about this, but I really want it. Like really, really can't stop thinking about being with a girl too. Okay, so whether or not your husband is lying to you or not, right, quote, lying to you about that, you know what? Let's just give him that little fib. All right, let's give that to him. As far as I'm concerned, if your husband's looking at you and going, you know what, babe, I would consider that for you. And maybe in his head, he's like, yeah, I want to be with another woman too, or I would love to see that because like, that's so freaking hot. And oh my God, I can't believe that she's actually asked me. This man inside of him is like, bro, do you know what your wife, if he's just trying to calm himself and be like, yeah, whatever you want, baby. Like, I don't really love it, but I'll do, you know what? Let's give him that little fib. God love him for trying to protect you. Okay. He's probably trying to protect himself and you. It kind of feels like a setup. If you ask any dude out there right now, he's probably like, this is a setup. I don't know. There's no right way to answer this question. So let's just lay that aside. Whether he wants to or not is irrelevant as long as he wants to do it for you. Okay. So that's the biggest part. You said, I can't handle seeing him with another woman as they both, but if they both focused on me. Bringing somebody into your relationship is not something to be taken lightly. So many people think, if I just bring somebody else into the relationship, it'll just be hot. It's so fun, like, whatever. And like that might sound like a good idea, but this is another human, right? Like it's not like a toy where you can kind of put the toy in a shelf or in a box by the end of the night. So now you've got a lot of dynamics happening. You've got a lot of people, a lot of emotions, a lot of perspectives, a lot of expectations. Sorry, not anticipation, but expectations happening. And when you have expectation, then that can lead to a lot of like disappointments and resentments depending on how you do this. So it's really important for you first to have a really strong foundation. Now, the fact that you've already told this to your husband, he seems fine with it. He is telling you that he would consider it to help you have your fantasy. Whether or not this man is dying inside and cannot wait for you to have this fantasy come true is none of our business. That's his own fantasy in his head, but he's open to it. You've had communication with him, so I'm assuming that went really well. All of these things bode well for bringing somebody else into your relationship. Now, I'm going to focus on the part that you seem to be the most concerned about, and that's boundaries. There's lots of different ways to find people. There's lots of different, things that you're going to want to consider for aftercare, and we can talk about those a little bit too. But it sounds to me like you are really talking about boundaries. And that's a question that you're going to have to ask yourself and your husband. And then once that's decided, then you also have to realize that you're working with another human, right? If this is not a person that you're paying to come in and do this for you, then you have to understand that they have their own boundaries, their own desires, their own wants, their own needs, and they're not actually there just for your disposal. So that's something that you really have to take into consideration, which can be done very well. But I think sometimes people forget about that and they think, you know what? Okay, me and Tom want to have somebody in, so we're going to ask Laura to come in and do this, and then Laura's just going to do whatever we tell her to do. But maybe Laura has her own idea of what she would want it to be as well. So she actually gets to have a say depending on how that goes. But your boundaries would just be something that you would talk to these two people about. You would say, you know what? I want to do something. This is my fantasy. The husband has agreed that this is my fantasy. So then, okay, husband, what are we going to do? How is this going to be laid out? And then actually come out with a plan. Kind of create like a little script around it just for safety, right? Just for your own personal, your own personal boundaries, and say, you know what, we're going to kiss, but just the girl and I are going to do all of the touching. And maybe your husband, I don't know, maybe your husband could even just watch the first time. Maybe he could be sitting in, his stud chair and just watching you and this woman be together. And then maybe the second time, or maybe later on in that day, he gets invited to come over, but his hands and his, body has to just continuously touch you. I'm going to go back to your question for 1 second. You said, if he kissed or touched her, I don't think I could handle that. Now, if you're having a close sexual encounter with somebody, you have to understand the bodies are going to be really close to one another. So you might want to get really specific on what touched means, right? I can understand kissing. That's pretty intentional, right? But the touching, do you mean their legs touching? Do you mean that he can't like stroke her back or her leg, or maybe touch both of your faces while you two are kissing? What does touching actually mean to you? Because if it's something where you're like, no, absolutely no physical contact whatsoever, you may come across a couple of little challenges you can overcome them, but I just need you to understand that that's what's going to happen. It may happen. Right? And you're going to want to have those conversations about that. If it's sexual touch, you can be very clear. You know what? I don't mind hands on shoulders or even hands from the waist up, right? Let's say we've gotten to that point where you're like hands on the waist up, we can touch some boobs. We can maybe, but no kissing, nothing. He's on one side, you're in the middle, she's on the other side. You can create that physical boundary as well, where just the hands are roaming. Maybe you are the one in control of everybody's hands to kind of give it that real hot, spicy, this is all for me, where you take his hand and put it in a certain place and you take her hand and put it in a certain place. But the idea is that everybody involved knows the boundary, they know their role, and you've had these conversations before. Do not invite another person into your bedroom and think, let's just wing it. They're one of our best friends, or I know that they're super kinky. Let's just wing it and let this happen. That's probably not going to bode well for you. Now, I will say, and I say this over and over again, it's nothing new, and people have heard me say this 100 times before. I really recommend, if you wanted to have a threesome with somebody or try something different, to hire a sex worker. I think that you can find wonderful, trusted sex workers wherever you are. If you have, if you just do a little bit of research, they're there for a certain reason. They're there to create an atmosphere that you are, curate an atmosphere that you're asking for, and that can be a little bit of a different option for you if that's something that you wanted to kind of enjoy, right? If you just wanted to go meet somebody organically, that's okay too. Now, the aftercare of all of that, something else I really want to point out if we're talking about having, multiple partners and multiple people, is that when you're done, you and your husband are going to have this moment of debrief probably, right? Feedback. You're going to sit back and be like, oh my God, how was that? What's going on? You may want to just keep in mind that this third person may or may not want to be involved in that debrief as well. They may or may not have their own ways of aftercare. And aftercare are things that we do for our partners or do for ourselves that kind of ease us back into the world of the living, if you will, after our beautiful erotic encounters. Sometimes people can just jump up and go get a sandwich. Other people really need to kind of have like a full body massage, or they need to be, cuddled. Those of us in the straight hetero world, we call it pillow talk and cuddling, we just, sometimes we do it and sometimes we don't. But most people who are going to have these kind of encounters understand that aftercare is really, really important to your psyche. It's really important to your body and to your nervous system to be able to get grounded again after you've done something. And if the third party is somebody who maybe has never done this before either, or maybe they're bi, maybe they're not, maybe they're just a friend that you're calling in to have some fun, you have to keep in mind that they are going to have their own ways of needing to be cared for afterwards. So how are you willing to help care for this third person? You can't just kick them out while you and your partner sit down and have pizza, unless that's something that they want, right? But you will have discussed that before all of this happens. How do you like to be treated after this happens? What do you think we should do? Should we grab dinner? Should we order a pizza? Are we all going to sit and cuddle? Then, are we going to talk about this afterwards? Who's going to have contact with who? Are we allowed to, share and intermingle? There's a lot to think about when you're going to have these conversations with people, especially if, and it sounds like you do, have a few boundaries that you really want to keep because your body is telling you something. You don't have to feel hypocritical about it, okay? This is just something that you need, and it's okay to have your needs met as long as you're really communicative, as long as you're really clear on what that is and that you've done a lot of work. And then we're not always going to get it right, So then just taking accountability if maybe we didn't get it right and being like, damn, I'm so sorry. This didn't work out this way. That didn't work out that way. What's going to be a little bit of a safe word for you and your partner and the third party involved? Is there going to be a stop word? Is there going to be a, I don't like this word, right? And then how are we going to handle those situations? So many things to think about. I know you really, really, really want it, but I'd really like you to think about all of those things before you bring somebody else into your relationship. It could be something where you and your partner talk about it and maybe you have an encounter with your female friend by yourself for the first time. Or like I said, with your partner watching. And don't forget, like if you really want to reach out, serenahaynes.com, come on in, both of you, have a conversation with me. Even if you have the third that you have kind of, I hate the word chosen, but asked, and they've agreed to kind of be part of this and you want to come in and have a conversation with me, let's book a session. So head over to serenahaynes.com. It's really super easy. Book my session and let's get chatting. Thank you for that question. I really wish you a lot of luck because I love hearing people have fun in their sex lives. So on to this next one. It's a bit of it seems to me like it's a long-term relationship. I don't know who wrote the question. They wrote it lovely to the point where it's I don't know which perspective it's coming from. So it says, negative feedback loop in long-term relationship sex. Hubs comes too quickly. Wife tries not to appear too, quote, into it because that makes him finish even quicker. Repeat for years. And wife never wants to initiate because a quickie with her finishing using a vibrator is boring. And husband doesn't want to initiate because he knows it's not what she wants. In the end, two unsatisfied people making less and less time for each other, period. Yeah. So that is the end result of this negative feedback loop. And you're right. And I don't know who wrote this question, but between the two of you, it just can get really so repetitive that it feels so daunting to even try to fix it to begin with, right? So here's the deal. We'll touch on a couple of fun things here. Hubs comes too quickly. Okay, so we don't touch you. You don't get touched, period. I'm going to read this because it's like repeat for years. I can never know who's writing these questions. However, I'm going to assume that however long you've been together, sex equals penetration. And when you're together, there may or may not be a lot of, erotic foreplay, because there's a difference between just foreplay and erotic foreplay. Erotic foreplay is when you first start coming together, kissing, touching, doing those things. So the precursors to like kind of moving. I personally just call that sex, from kissing to fingering to blowjobs to touching to massages. If I'm in an erotic counter with you, that's sex. And that's a really great way to be able to say, you know what, we had sex 4 times this week. Maybe once we had manual sex. Maybe once we mutually masturbated. Maybe once we just did oral for a little while and nobody had to come, because you don't have to come to have really great sex. That's a full quote right there. That's all. So I'm going to assume that you think within your relationship that sex may look like something like this. You start kissing, you come together, maybe there's a little foreplay of like boobs or neck touching, maybe there's a little fingering, who knows, but the sex is the intercourse, the P&V, the penis and vagina, and that doesn't last long for the husband, or even if it's manual play, okay? And it takes, and then now wife is trying to appear not too into it. Like, how hard is that? If you're actually into it, usually we're talking about the opposite, right? We're like, oh my God, like I wish I could be more into it. But now you have to pretend not to be into it just to satisfy his needs, which puts you completely in your head. So yeah, this loop is going to be tough. So my suggestion is if Hubs comes too quickly, then we don't touch Hubs. He doesn't get touched. Sorry, buddy. You'll get yours, I promise, but not yet. And it's going to be focused all on your wife. So I want you to focus on your wife. I want you to focus on kissing her and touching her and letting her relax into her body, letting her become more embodied in her sexual self. What does that mean? Those words, we hear them a lot, embodied in your sexual self. Get embodied. We're going to do embodied breath work. What does all this mean, this word embodied? All it means is giving her a minute for her brain to catch up, or her body to catch up to her brain, or her brain to kind of like shut down so her body can take over and start feeling rather than labeling, right? He's kissing me. He's going down here. When he does this, now next he's going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then it's going to be over. Now all of us, there's no room for her to relax at all. So the idea is, a female body does take a little bit longer to warm up. Our desire is a little bit different. It may be more responsive. She may need not only things outside of the bedroom, but in the bedroom, she may need those moments of like tender kisses. Maybe she needs rough kisses. You don't know. I don't know. You probably know. Hopefully you do. Maybe she needs a back rub. Maybe she needs her arms stroked. Maybe if you go back and listen to a couple of episodes, we've talked about how to please a pussy. And maybe you go in and you start touching her vulva in a different way and kind of warming her up. Let's do a quick anatomy lesson, hubs. Just so you have it, here in my hand is my clitoris, because I'm always touching my clitoris and I love my clit. It has 5 different erectile beds. Your penis has 2. Okay, well, a little bit more, but let's just call it 2. Most people would probably just say 1, right, as the penis and the shaft. But a clitoris, which is her sex organ, has 5 different erectile beds, not to mention the other erectile beds that are inside of her vagina and up around her urethra. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These can take upwards to, people say upwards to 40 minutes, but good research shows, 12 to 20 minutes of like foreplay, letting a person relax into her body, letting her get a boner too. She needs a boner too. All right. We get to have those as well, not just you. So when you have your boner, just put it away for a minute. Just tuck it to the side and take your hands and start to play with her vulva, stroking the labia, stroking the clitoris. Maybe you go down, you do some oral on her. Maybe it doesn't have to be any crazy techniques. We talk about, crazy techniques to make her come in 5 minutes. Cool. Or you could go down and just really like kiss and lick and be gentle and slow and give her brain a chance to say, okay, this is going to be okay. This is for me. I don't have to pretend. I can just relax into this. I can allow my body a minute to just say, this is good pleasure. I can feel something. Your wife is not even feeling anything. That's not good sex. You know that, right? Because here's the second part is husband doesn't want to initiate because he knows it's not what she wants. So let's find out what she wants. Have you ever asked? Have you ever asked her what she wants? And wife, do you know what you want? Do you touch your body? Do you know how you need to be touched instead? The biggest thing that I want you to take away from this though is that husband, your penis doesn't get touched. You don't get touched. You get kissed. You can get kissed and you can get little strokes, right? Like you can get little tickles and maybe you can get a small little hand job or maybe you can get your balls played with, but you don't get to do any of that. Everything is going to be manual, oral, making out. I want you guys to think about making out, okay? The art of making out has died and we need to bring it back. And you guys are going to be the first ones to do it for me. No, not the first ones, probably the 1,000th ones. But you guys are going to do this. Set some time aside where sex is completely off the table. And I want you to just make out. Do all of the other things. All of the things that you did before you would have ever had any sort of penetration or any sort of, even, what are the bases these days? Like second base was petting back in the day. Like first base was kissing. Second base was like having tits rubbed and maybe hand outside the jeans. And then third base was like hand jobs and fingering. And then home run was sex. Is that still the same, I wonder?
I was having this argument in a group chat.
Oh, fun.
Because everyone thinks that they're different.
Yeah.
I always thought it was first base making out, second base any hand stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Anything with the hands. So hand jobs, fingering.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
And then third is oral.
Oh, okay.
And home run is sex. But some people say
oral's not even in my equation. Isn't that funny? That's the world. That's the world I lived in.
Well, then other people are saying a home run is an orgasm.
Oh, fuck that. No way.
See? I'm clipping this for my friends.
Absolutely fucking not. No. Listen.
I guess it's up for interpretation. There's
it really is, except I'm such I just get so riled up when people are like, the only best sex you can have is when you have an orgasm. Like, no. Right. So I feel really strongly about that, but I think it's just because this is the world I live in. And like for this couple, for example, we don't want him to have an orgasm. Like that's not going to be the epitome of the greatest sex of their lives tonight. The greatest sex of their lives tonight is going to be actually coming together, not coming, but being together and having some pleasure without both of them being so fucking crazy in their heads, right? So like orgasm is so completely off the table. So I think in my mind, with my definitions, I'm thinking, I want you guys to make out. Go to first base, go to second base even, right? A little booby touch, maybe a little like outside the underwear, kind of like rub, maybe rubbing the ass and like the thighs and things, but kind of keep it there until you are built up so much for the wife that maybe, because you say that you sometimes use a vibrator, bring that vibrator out and have your orgasm and then have sex with your partner, right? Because there's nothing wrong with having all of the pleasure. And even if you're not having an orgasm through intercourse or through partner to partner play, that's okay. We don't have to quantify what good sex is. Good sex is whatever sex is good for you. You know, your sex is probably not going to be the same as my sex and the same as Sarah's and the same as, John's down the road. Like everybody gets to create that all on their own, which is the most beautiful thing about having the best pleasure of your life. So for you guys, it could be make out. Wife gets a chance to finally relax. Husband gets a chance to actually like please his wife. And then, husband has to wait until there's any sort of play whatsoever, which could be hard for wife because depending on your age group and depending on how you look at sex, it's the male pleasure that's going to be focused, right? Male pleasure is centralized in heterosexual sex. And this is going to be a little bit off from what that feels like to you, maybe naturally. So now her pleasure is going to be centralized. And once you get to have your orgasm, or not, even if you just say, you know what, I'm good. That was really, really great. Now let's do this for you. Then Hubs gets to kind of come in and do whatever it is he gets to do to have his orgasm. And then you guys have your cuddles and then you try again the next time. So that's how I would break that negative feedback, okay? Because you're right. In the end, you have two unsatisfied people and then you're making less and less time for each other because you're both too worried about what's going on. Now, when it comes to even coming together on that, you can have, obviously, listen to the podcast and get on the socials. Sex begets sex. The more you talk about sex outside of the bedroom, the more you're going to be able to communicate about that inside the bedroom, right? So this isn't something that you would bring up, you're making out and all of a sudden you go, okay, listen, Serena said that we can't have sex tonight. Serena said you don't get to come yet. That's probably not the right time to do that. That would be, a couple of days before, like, oh, hey, she answered our question. That's so cool. Let's listen to Intimacy Unlocked. Let's go to serenahaynes.com. Let's listen to all of these fun sex things and learn what do we like about one another, right? And then coming together and having those conversations. So I think that this is quite repairable. And, the biggest thing being, let's focus on her pleasure a little bit more. Centralize your pleasure, babe. And then have everything else that comes after that is just gravy. All right, so here's our next little question. Really simple, to the point. Let's see what we can do. I just want to know, it says, can attraction be repaired once it's broken? Well, I think it depends on what kind of attraction you mean. And do you really want it to be fixed? But I think you're getting at, maybe there's a moment with a partner or something and, you find that you're not really attracted to them anymore. And that can kind of get to your head. And when it gets to your head, it can start playing tricks on you, and you can think, oh my God, if I'm not attracted to them anymore. I mean, that's what a relationship is, right? We have a formula for attraction. It's actually, it's attraction plus obstacle equals desire is the equation. So when we have attraction and then there's a little obstacle, it's supposed to equal the desire that we have for our partners. And then when the attraction is not there, obviously the equation just seems like it's broken, right? So now there's an obstacle, obviously, which is the lack of attraction. And because of that, then there's no desire. So I want you to just think for a second, is it a physical attraction that you're missing? Or do you mean attraction like desire, right? Like I'm not desiring my partner anymore. Or is it a physical, ew, I can't even stand the smell of them anymore. Smell is a big one. You know, it's funny. I use that as a little joke, but there are a lot of things actually as humans that we can overcome. But psychologically speaking, scent is something that is really most of the times like a deal breaker. And that's not something that I say very lightly, but there's a lot of research out there that, and no, I can't cite that right now, but there's research out there that says like our sense of smell is one of the biggest things. Like we can deal with touch, we can deal with visuals. We can even deal with sound a little bit better. But if somebody has like an odor to them of some sort, then it's really hard for us to kind of put that past and kind of get over. But can it be repaired once it's broken? It can, but you need to start thinking about things outside of the physical, I think. So even if this is a physical attraction that is not there anymore, I'd like you to start questioning yourself and say, is it actually the physical attraction, or are there things happening or have things happened that have lowered my desire for my partner? Okay. That could be things within yourself. It doesn't have to be on your partner. Maybe it's something they've never changed ever. And it's something that's going on inside of you. So I want you to think about maybe your age, the stage that you're in. What does that look like? What's going on with your hormones? Are we kind of working our way into like maybe perimenopause? Maybe are we working our way through our cycle in PMS? Can you track it? Is it once a month? You just kind of can't stand your partner for 1 week a month? You might have your answer kind of thing, right? If you don't have a hormonal cycle like that, and you know, maybe you have a penis, it can be the same thing. Look at yourself and just think, what's going on in my life? Is there a lot of stress? Is there a lot of something else happening? And then the way to repair things like that is to focus on gratitude. And I know that when I say things like that, people are like, oh, so boring. What about the vibrators? And I go, yeah, but you know what? We've got to bring everything in. So one of the ways to repair distance like that is to focus on the good things. We have a negative bias, just as humans in general. We have negative bias. Our brains does it. It keeps us safe. We look for all of the bad things in order to categorize them as bad or worse in order to keep our bodies safe and keep ourselves safe. Our nervous system wants that. If we kept looking for all of the good things and we missed one of the bad things, you know, then back in the day, biologically speaking, you know, the tiger would jump out and get us. Like we always had to be on like that. So when it comes to having that relationship repair with your partner, I want you to think about the things that you really love about them. Think about the past. Why did you start loving them? Why did you start being attracted to them? What was it about them? Was it their sense of adventure? Was it their comedic scent? Was it their sense? Was it their eye color? Was it their hair? Was it, you know, the way that they laughed? Was it the way that they were kind? What was it? There's always something that you can sit back and go, damn, that's the thing that got me. You know, it doesn't have to be physical. And start focusing on that, right? And think, do they still do that? We change over time. Everybody changes over time. But what components of that can I bring back? Every day, say something nice to your partner. Every day, even if you don't want to, even if you have the hardest time coming up with something, and every time they turn their back, you're rolling their eyes at them, say something nice and be like, thank you. Thank you for opening my door. Thank you for doing the laundry. Thank you for just being you today. Thank you for calling me. I really needed to talk to somebody today. Thank you for planning that trip. Thank you for helping that person down the street that I saw you. You know, that really meant a lot to see that my person is that kind of human being with that kind of integrity. You know, just be really grateful for the things and do it out loud, you know, and really tell that person what it is. And if you don't feel super comfortable always saying it out loud, make a little list. Don't make a pros and cons list. Just make a pros list. Only the pros. Everything that is fantastic about your partner, from the way, you know, maybe the favorite shirt that they own, to the way that they dance, to, you know, sneakers, to their pets or their parents or whatever it is. Okay. Make a really big pros list and then focus on that a little bit more. You'd be surprised how easy it is for us to focus on the negative when we're not being really intentional about focusing on the positive. The negative will take over. The other part of that is, you know, if that attraction, if it is physical attraction, or regardless, I mean, it could be, you know, the desire obviously is the part of it that, you know, you might want to, you know, sit down. Realistically speaking, maybe not everything can be fixed, right? And be realistic with yourself about that and think, you know, what is it that actually is making me feel turned off about this partner? And I promise you that it probably has little to nothing to do with them, actually, and has a lot to do with decisions that you're making for yourself, and maybe some subconscious things that you kind of have going on within yourself as well. So that's what I think. Can attraction be repaired once it's broken? It can, but it takes a lot of intention, a lot of gratitude, a lot of kindness. If you're not physically touching, hold hands, snuggle on the couch, skin to skin contact, cuddling in bed, whatever you can do to kind of create that oxytocin release with your partner. The more distance that there is between you, the harder it's going to be to repair that, especially in your head. Because if your body isn't creating those chemicals of bonding, then your brain is just going to take over and be like, oh, well, this is not a safe environment. There's no reason for us to even be here anymore. So you want to kind of bring yourself together intentionally for that. And again, this whole episode could be a reach out to serenahaynes.com, because these are the things that I work with clients in the office. A lot of these other fun things, yes, they do come into me asking about blowjobs and things, but most of it is relationship repair. Most of it is, how do I do this? How do we open up? What's going on? Long-term relationships, desire issues, things like that. So reach out, have a conversation. I'd love to help you with that. Okay, so let's get on to a fun orgasm question. I've never really orgasmed with a partner, and I don't know how to tell them how to get me there. The sex I have with my partner is good, but I need something else. I find myself turning him down a lot, and I know it hurts him. Also, my desire is in the toilet. How can I get that spark back? So you kind of answered your own question, really, when you said my desire is in the toilet. How can I get that spark back? That's the biggest thing, right? We just talked about the equation, attraction plus obstacle equals desire. And if one of those things is off a little bit, now guys, it's not a set in stone equation. It's not actual math. So I know I'm going to have somebody come at me and be like, it doesn't have to. No, it doesn't. But it's just a general theory that we have. So I want you to think about that a little bit. Now, I don't know who wrote this question. I don't know if you have a penis. I don't know if you have a vulva. I don't know what kind of relationship you're in. So I'm going to touch on a little bit of both. I've never really orgasmed with a partner, and I don't know how to tell them how to get them to help me get there. So the bottom line is, regardless of your body parts, you need to know. So I wonder if you know how to have an orgasm, and to have an orgasm with as little extra stimulation as possible. So when I'm talking to people who have vulvas, what I say to them a lot is, if you can orgasm on your own and you use a vibrator, but you can't orgasm with a partner, that could be physically. That could be one of the reasons why. There's nothing wrong with vibrators. There's nothing wrong with sex toys. We love a good sex toy. But if you're relying on that while you're with yourself, then how do you expect to be able, for your body to be able to relax into that, feedback system when you're with a human? Because your human is not going to vibrate like that, right? They're not going to get you there like that. There's so many other components involved. Your brain has to do so many other things. I've got to kiss them and love them and touch them and do all of these things as well. So I want you to definitely start touching yourself. Find out, what do I like? How do I like my hands to feel on my body? What do I like my body to feel like? What kind of environment do I need to have, or do I like to have, in order for me to relax the most? Where are my brakes, right? We've talked a lot about brakes and accelerators. Your brakes are the things that limit your desires. They limit your capacity for your nervous system to relax into a space of pleasure. Pleasure and stress can't exist at the same time. They can exist sort of at the same time. Depends on what kind of work you're doing, what kind of sexy stuff that you like to do. But that emotional and mental stress that happens, and then pleasure, they kind of can't turn on at the same time. So if you want those accelerators, right? If you want your brain to accelerate and kind of go, haha, I feel comfy and I really want to have sex right now. I really want to feel this pleasure. I can relax into it, right? Sex is playful, and it's a space where your brain actually needs to kind of shut down a bit so that you're not in fight or flight mode. You need to be in rest and relax, right? In order to have a little bit of fun. So you got to know how to touch your own body, right? You have to know how to touch your body with your hands, so that when your partner's hands touch your body, that will also give your brain a signal to say, this is familiar and this is a good pattern of pleasure and I really, really like this. Now, if you have a penis, your outside stimulation could be anything. And I know this is so very stereotypical, right? And so forgive me, but the idea is a lot of people with penises then would have porn as their outside stimulation. Maybe it is a toy. Maybe you've got that Gawk 3000 thing I was talking about, or 8000, the one with the handles. It's like a goddamn, I don't know what it is. And anyway, it's just crazy, all these toys that come out lately. I love it. I absolutely love it. But yeah, between partner to partner, it's really tough sometimes to kind of replicate what's going on with all of this stuff. So if you have a penis and you're using a toy or using porn, those would be the stimuli that maybe you want to kind of pull back on a little bit and allow yourself the sensations that you would feel with your partner as well. So the same thing goes, right? When you haven't really orgasmed with a partner, but you want to, I always go to, well, what are your masturbation practices, right? What is your relationship with sex and your own body in order, right? And it also says like how to tell them, how to help me, how to get me there. Well, you need to know, and you need to know really well, not just I take my vibrator and I stick it on my clit, or, I watch, this kind of porn and I just kind of get there and like I grip and rip and then it's done. Like you need to be able to seduce yourself a little bit if you want somebody else to be able to seduce you as well. So then you say you find yourself turning him down a lot, and I know it hurts him. Also, my desire's in the toilet. So if your desire's in the toilet, it's kind of a chicken or egg situation, and I'll never know unless we have a conversation about it really, but your desire is so much more to do with the environment that you're in, and your body environment as well when it comes to hormones and things like that, and mental capacity and mental load and stress levels and the things that are going on, which are all indicators of the external environment that you're in. So I want you to think about that. Are we creating space for desire to live? Are we creating that space in our lives for personal seduction, for relaxation, for this playfulness to come out? You can't play and be stressed at the same time. It just is not going to work for you, right? So how can I get that spark back? Create some space for that. Think to yourself, is there a time, is there a space where maybe we both are really relaxed and maybe we both in the past we have had a lot of fun together? Where was that? Not necessarily logistically where was that, but where were we? Where were we emotionally? What was the physical environment like? What were we doing? Were we out listening to music? Was it kind of like an excitement? Was it a really relaxed evening at home? Was it getting away from something? Was it turning the phones off? What was that? And then try to replicate that as well. But in order to tell somebody what you need, you really need to sit down and think about that for yourself. Where do you find, and be really, really honest, where do you find the most pleasure in your life? From, friends to people, to music, to, textiles, to touching your body. What is that? And then sitting down with your partner outside of the bedroom and trying that as well. Okay, guys, that's our episode of Intimacy Unlocked for this week. Thank you again for listening. We really love your questions coming in, and there's nothing more than that I love than answering them for you. So, check out the show notes. Go on into our anonymous form. You can leave anonymous questions. You can also leave anonymous voicemails, which we really, really love. So hit us up there. If you wanted to have some one-on-one time with me, serenahaynes.com is where you're going to find everything that I do. Personally, I work virtually and in person with people all over the world. So please have a conversation with me about that. That Dying for Sex group, I really want to pack this group with people with so many different perspectives. It's going to be so fun. Again, it's free. This is not a charging thing. I'm not teaching anything. I'm going to be sitting there in my jammies with a glass of wine, just like you. So whatever comes out of my mouth, disclaimer, I'm not going to be held accountable. It's not a professional thing. This is just for fun. Yeah, so join us for that group chat for Dying for Sex. We're going to do this on April 30th, Wednesday night. Join us at like 7 p.m. Atlantic. Let's sit down, have a glass of wine, hump day. Let's talk about Dying for Sex. It's going to be awesome. But hit us up. We'll have that link in the show notes as well. And you can head to my Instagram at Serena_Haynes for all of my event listings, everywhere that you can see me. I'm going to be traveling a little bit over the summer as well. So if you are in the cities that I'm traveling to, that'll be so cool for you to kind of come up and say hello. Thank you for listening to the Intimacy Unlocked podcast, where I'm unlocking your pleasure one question at a time. The key is already in your hands. Are you ready to turn it?